Good morning and welcome to Breakfast Central. It's our final episode for the week, of course, before Breakfast Extra takes over tomorrow. But until then, we are going to be looking at some of the biggest stories happening here in Nigeria on the political landscape. I want to urge you to be a part of the conversation. Join us this morning, and you can join us on social media at News Central TV. I am Olive Emodi.
I'm Johansson, and I'm saying welcome as well. Good morning, and hope you had a fantastic night. Waking up to listen to some of the very heart-wrenching, or you'd say rather worrisome stories on the social media space. Also, keeping tabs with the latest and getting insightful details here on News Central. We are sure that you would also have a wonderful 2 hours with us, so we beckon on you to stay with us for the next 2 hours. The biggest story so far making the rounds is mpox, formerly known as monkeypox. It was renamed a few years ago when they asked that they need to change the name, and then mpox was what was selected. However, it started to become a global pandemic, and that's what it's been said, that it's actually a global pandemic now. They've seen traces of mpox spreading across not just Africa, but of course it's got into Europe. So the question is, could we, one way or the other, get to see another lockdown like we did see during the COVID-19 period? Well, just in case you do not know, mpox is indeed spreading very fast. There are situations and cases that many thought they could curtail, but right now as we speak, it is starting to become a global pandemic, and that's exactly what it is being described.
I think that it's important to also mention to people that there are certain safety measures that we can employ to ensure that we do not find ourselves in such situation. And the thing, or the uncomfortable truth about mpox, is how it shares a lot of similarities. The symptoms of mpox share a lot of similarities with malaria, which is our most popular sickness here in Nigeria. Once someone says they're not feeling well, the next thing is go and do malaria test, right? So,
and then they always say it's typhoid or malaria.
I think it's even more malaria than typhoid, because with typhoid is slightly more complicated, but with malaria, once you start to feel body aches and you're feeling your body ache, you're just not in the best state of mind, the first thing people think about is malaria. So I think that it's important to mention that the symptoms of mpox are quite similar to symptoms of malaria, and this is not to alarm anyone. It's to let you know that we apologize for how gory the pictures look, but this is the reality of exactly what mpox looks like. It doesn't always start out with a rash. Sometimes it starts out with headache, joint aches, the fever as well, and then sometimes you then start to see the rash on the skin that eventually comes up into blister-like look. So if you have anything that makes you feel uncomfortable, please report to the nearest health facility to you. Also, to ensure that now is the time to employ better hygiene, better health standards. The way that we used to live during the Bola time or the COVID-19 time, where everyone had hand sanitizers, maybe it's time to revert to that. When you're touching any surface, please wash your hands. Prioritize your health, especially because being healthy is not a luxury. The common man who is trying to feed cannot afford to not prioritize employing measures to keep his health, because if you fall critically ill, anyway, it's going to be a really dire situation, because even those who are middle class, they're just one sickness away from losing it all. So it's important that we realize that health is wealth, and you must prioritize your health now more than ever.
All right. Anyway, the World Health Organization boss, talking about Tedros Ghebreyesus, has actually declared that it is a global emergency. That's what he said. He said chickenpox is, I beg your pardon, mpox is now a global emergency. That's what he has described it as. And scientists are currently concerned, as at yesterday, scientists had come out to say they are quite surprised at the rate, at the speed at which the new variant of the disease is spreading. It has high fatality rates. That's what it said. So this mpox is quite different from the other mpoxes in quotes. This one is coming with a very high fatality rate. Most importantly, that's killed 450 persons during its initial outbreak in DR Congo. And you recall it started in DR Congo, by the way. That's where it started from, and now to go out in the 1970s. And now it is back again. But it's worthy of concern that every single person this morning takes note of that and do all you can to ensure that you are protected and the family is equally protected. Stay glued to the news channels like News Central. We'll be giving you more of the health-related updates concerning mpox and what you need to do. Most importantly about its spread as well.
And when people hear about it, they're thinking it's far, but Nigeria has already recorded 39 cases, and this is one of the conversations we're going to be looking at this morning. But there are several conversations that we've had over the course of the week where we also will be sharing our top stories. I think it goes without saying that my top story for the week will be the counter-subversion bill, especially because in a way it highlights the mindset of our lawmakers, but more importantly, the power of our collective voices. Nigerians spoke strongly against the counter-subversion bill. And even when they tried to explain what it was, they realized that Nigerians were still speaking against it and withdrew the bill.
Olive, should I interject? I'm sorry to interject. Ahead. So yesterday, I was on the news, okay? And a guest joined the news. And while he joined the news in the course of the interview, he simply enunciated that the bill is right. It comes at the right time. And that he thinks that, yes, anybody who doesn't X, Y, Z, and so on. I mean, due respect to our guests and who take time to join us on the program every morning, I was forced to ask him a question, and I said, can you see what the bill says? Did you take a look at the bill? The bill said that if you do not sing the national anthem, that you'll be fined from 4 to 10 million naira.
I don't even care how much it is that you'll be fined.
And you'll be imprisoned.
I don't think the concern is how much people will be fined. It's the fact that you are criminalizing not singing the national anthem.
That's it.
When there are people who have made corruption a stock in trade. We're currently talking about the Senate and how much they're earning, and there's the back and forth on how much really is their salary and allowances, whilst the average Nigerian is grappling to make ends meet. So there are people who have made, they're constantly pilfering our nation's commonwealth. And we're there talking about criminalizing the national anthem. It's a reflection of where really our priorities, where do our priorities lie as a people?
Anyway, I asked him, I said, I wouldn't mind if he could recite the national anthem. I hope he doesn't mind if he can do that. Did he? And he laughed and said, no, he laughed and said, yeah, he thinks that's too extreme. Oh, wow. That part, it's too extreme. I'm like, okay. So what are we saying? It's not, I think we need to take time to review certain bills that are being passed and take note. Like you've rightly mentioned, a lot of Nigerians are saying that there are very important bills that should be passed now and not that one. The bills criminalizing corruption, stealing, especially from a public office or public servants and so on. Till date, we've heard of names, we've heard of arrests, and nothing has been done.
I think that it's very important that we realize and that our lawmakers realize the immense power that they wield. The power to be able to, create laws and legislation that would change the course of how things are being done in our country. I think it's important that legislators understand that they can automatically determine the shift of, certain things. Whilst we're saying that we're fighting against corruption, and the government of the day would say that corruption is fighting back. They have legislative instruments that they can use to be able to win the war against corruption. Now is not the time to be focusing on the minors or majoring on the minors. The national anthem, singing it or not singing it, should not be the order of the day. Besides, even when you look at it, you're also infringing on people's rights. There are people whose religion do not allow them to, do not permit for them to sing the national anthem. And you're stripping them of their right to, freedom of religious expression. So there are many layers to it. I think the focus here is we applaud, we are glad that the House of Rep has withdrawn the bill. And I'm also proud of Nigerians for standing for what they believe in, for speaking truth to power, and also to remind us that the more we see anomalies like this, we must realize that our voice counts, our voice matters. I may think that they're not listening, but when everybody is speaking collectively with one voice, the necessary change that you want will come. Maybe not immediately, but eventually it will come. Let's share with you our top stories this morning before we bring you breakfast headlines. Nigeria's inflation rate drops for the first time in 19 months. It would seem that that's good news. What is triggering this? You'll find out shortly. Senate denies Kawu's claim of 21 million naira pay for lawmakers. It's been a back and forth between Ramfak and the Senate. Apologize or face our wrath? Labour warns federal government over raid. Will the government cave in? We'll find out. Nigeria records 39 cases of mpox. Expects 10,000 vaccine doses. We review the newspaper front pages with our analysts and with you when we open the phone lines. Join us. Now we bring you breakfast headlines.
Let's begin breakfast headlines in Nigeria by telling you that following a raid on the Nigerian Labour Congress headquarters by security operatives, organized labour is demanding an apology from the federal government and the Nigeria police force. At a press conference held at Labour House in Abuja, the NLC firmly rejected the police's justification for the raid, which claimed they were searching for a terrorist financier allegedly hiding on the second floor of the building. The NLC further accused the federal government of attempting to provoke and undermine them by linking the Congress to the Labour Party, describing this as part of a broader hybrid war against the organization. The NLC has vowed to take stringent action against the federal government and the Nigerian police if the demand apologies are not issued. President Bola Tinubu and his Equatorial Guinea counterpart, Teodoro, Obiang, Nguema, Mbasogo, have signed a landmark agreement on the Gulf of Guinea pipeline project, further strengthening their partnership for mutual development. The agreement addresses key aspects such as legislative and regulatory measures, pipeline establishment and operation, natural gas transit, pipeline ownership, and overarching principles. During the signing ceremony, the Nigerian leader, who is on a 3-day official visit to Equatorial Guinea, highlighted that his agreement will unlock new opportunities for gas exploration and job creation. The federal government of Nigeria has accused a Chinese company, Zhongshan Fuchak Industrial Investment Co. Limited, of subterfuge after a French court ruled in favor of the firm and granted a seizure of presidential jets belonging to the Nigerian government. In a statement on Thursday, presidential spokesman Bayo Onanuga alleged that the Chinese firm is trying to take over offshore assets of the federal government of Nigeria through subterfuge. In a dispute involving an arbitration award, the court in Paris ruled in favor of the Chinese firm, allowing it to seize 3 presidential jets on routine maintenance in France as security for claims in a decades-long judicial matter between the foreign company and the Ogun State government. And to some business-related news, Nigeria's headline inflation rate has experienced its first decline since December 2022, dropping from 34.19% to 33.40% in July 2024. This information was revealed in the Consumer Price Index inflation report released by the National Bureau of Statistics on Thursday. The report highlighted a 0.79% decrease in headline inflation for July. However, the July inflation figure remains 9.32% higher than the rate recorded in the same period in 2023. On a month-on-month basis, the headline inflation rate for July 2024 stood at 2.28%, slightly lower than 2.31% reported in June 2024. To help matters now, the Nigeria Center for Disease Control and Prevention on Thursday said Nigeria had recorded a total of 39 confirmed cases of mpox and 0 deaths across 33 states and the Federal Capital Territory from the beginning of 2024. The NCDC Director General Dr. Jide Idris, who disclosed this at a press conference in Abuja, said the country had so far recorded a total of 5,951 suspected cholera cases and 176 deaths have been recorded across 36 states and the FCT as of August 11, 2024. The Africa Center for Disease Control on Tuesday declared a public health emergency over the growing mpox outbreak on the continent. An mpox outbreak in the Democratic Republic of Congo has killed 548 people since the start of the year, with all provinces affected by the virus. Health Minister Samuel Roger Kamba said on Thursday. The World Health Organization on Wednesday declared the mpox surge in Africa a global public health emergency, worried by the rise in cases in DRC and the spread to nearby countries. The UN Health Agency's decision came the day after the African Union's health watchdog declared its own public health emergency over the growing outbreak. And that's all on Breakfast Headlines. Stay with us. After the break, we'll bring to you the stories here on Breakfast Central.
The Nigerian Labour Congress has warned that it will not take the issue of the alleged invasion of its property by the police lightly, unless it receives an official apology from the government. The organized labor made this known in Abuja while speaking to newsmen, describing the action of the police as illegal and irresponsible. News Central's Emmanuel Bagudu reports.
The memories of this invasion seems to be still lingering in the minds of officials of the Nigeria's organized labor. This press conference, according to Labour, is expected to address findings bordering on the alleged invasion.
Okay, so when you look at all of this happening together, at the same time, you know, the letter from the register of the trade unions came either 2 days before this protest or a day, okay? And this issue of tenor that has reared its head, you know, it's all part of the calculated attempt to emasculate organized labor, to suppress lawful dissent. And I tell you, it is not only here that are doing it, this is not only space that are doing it, but it is more manifest against labor because labor is the biggest and the most vocal pan-Nigerian organization. And I tell you, we will not be intimidated.
Organized labor is demanding an apology from government and the police, saying it will not take the issue lightly.
We would advise the federal government and the Nigerian police and those who came with them to summon the requisite courage to say we are sorry. In the event they do not do so, there are options open to us. And we're at liberty to use any of them, including withholding our services, because we are entitled to protection, to safe and peaceful occupancy of this building, free from threat from anyone, least of all the state. Note, it is also within our right to internationalize this problem.
Indeed, the battle line have been drawn, and whether the federal government and the Nigerian police will apologize to organized labor here in Nigeria, only time will tell. From the Labour House in Abuja for News Central, I am Emmanuel Bagudu.
Thank you very much, Emmanuel, for that. Now, after nearly 2 years of steady increases, Nigeria's annual inflation rate finally showed a decrease in July, bringing some much-needed relief to the economy. Nigeria's headline inflation rate has decreased to 33.40% in July 2024, down from 34.19% in June 2024. This is according to National Bureau of Statistics, NBS. Now, this marks the first decline in the headline inflation rate since December 2022. This decrease is attributed to slower price increases in some food items.
Well, however, the inflation rate is still higher than the same period last year, with food and non-alcoholic beverages contributing 17.30% to the year-on-year inflation. We'll have an economist join us later on as we take a look at this, but it's been good news, especially for many Nigerians who have said that finally, after 19 months, we're starting to see a decline, especially looking at the fact that this could inadvertently, one way or the other, have a strong impact, especially on food. But we'll leave that to the experts to tell us some more. But what we can tell you categorically is the fact that after 19 months, we're starting to see a very interesting decline, especially concerning Nigeria's inflation rate. Now, don't forget, there were concerns about the inflation rate, especially when it was going higher a few months back, right from when that declaration was made. That subsidy is gone during the inauguration of the president's speech, President Bola Tinubu, and now we're starting to see some policies being put in place. I do recall, quite frankly, that just a few days ago, the former CBN governor, the one known as Sanusi Lamido, had come out to say that the policy is being put in place by the Minister of the Economy and, of course, the current CBN governor is one that Nigerians should actually give time to, because he is of the opinion that with time, these policies will start to kick in. So he also used a similar analogy or illustration being used by the presidency, that it is much more like the country is bleeding. And in medical terms, when you have a patient who is bleeding, the first thing you try to do is to stop the bleeding. And after the bleeding has been stopped, then you can now focus on ensuring that the patient gets the right medications to heal. And that's exactly what the former CBN governor has said. In other words, it was much more like giving a kudos or giving a support to what the current CBN governor, Olayemi Cardoso, is doing.
Right.
But joining us this morning is an economist and one who likes to talk tough and holds back nothing. Bola Olajade joins us this morning. Good morning to you, Bola. Are you excited about the fact that after 19 months, we can finally say inflation is starting to sink?
Well, it's a good place to be. Good morning. I hope that we can sustain it, and I hope that this actually represents an inflection point in our inflation curve.
I'm glad that you said I hope, because I was going to ask you that, is it maybe premature rejoicing? Is it an increase or a decrease that can be sustained over the course of time? And I mean, you said to us just now that you hope that we can sustain this. What factors will need to be put in place for this to be sustained?
Okay, maybe we should talk briefly about how we got here, part of how we got here. If you look at last month's inflation, or if you have observed the inflation figures over the last 4 months, what has been happening was that inflation was increasing, but it was increasing at a decreasing rate. So let's say it increased by 4% 4 months ago, then it went to 3%, the month after it went to 2%, the one after it went to 1%. So we're bound to, at some point, if that trend continues, we'll get to a flattened curve and then an inflection in which the curve will take a turn. So this might have been what has happened, and it is still being led by that prime suspect, food. Nigeria is coming into a harvest season. As products are being harvested, a lot of them becomes more abundant, more available, so the supply improves. If supply improves, it will have an effect on the price. And because food inflation has been a leader of that composite inflation figure that we have, anything that will reduce the price of food or some of the key food items will definitely affect the inflation. So if you look at the breakdown, you'll see that the food inflation has gone down. And when it goes down, it drags the entire composite figure, it drags it down as well. So it would depend on what we do with this food inflation. For example, if we sustain and ensure that the harvested products are available to our people, and the people did not come from Niger and Burkina Faso and bought everything and took it to their country while we don't have much to eat around here. If we also ensure that the federal government initiative to remove tariff, because the food items that are driving the little gains that we can see are largely local food. The price of tomato has gone down from what it used to be about 3 months ago. The price of yam has gone down from what it used to be. So those are still local food. But for the imported food, their prices might not be affected except we implement that tariff remover. So the removal of tariff initiative by the government will help in that direction. So essentially, the sustainability of this gain will depend on how we manage the process.
Are you talking about the policy that the president did speak about, talking about how he was going to remove tariff from imported food products, or is it another policy? And I want your thoughts on that, especially because we saw that there was a lot of kickback against that. Local farmers complained about how this would affect them. We saw a number of farmers who said that they had even borrowed, taking loans to be able to produce locally, and they wonder what will become of their production. The chairman of the AFDB as well was one of the people who had criticized this, saying that whilst he understands the spirit behind this, but he worries about how it would affect the local production.
I don't think it will have a significant effect on the local production, because what we're saying is some product that used to be maybe 40 naira have become 100 naira. So if you bring some item, it's a temporary measure meanwhile, and that is what you can use to deflate the inflationary pressure, especially on imported item. I will give you a very good example. What is the percentage of wheat that we produce in Nigeria? Less than 5% of what we consume. So if somebody is removing tariff on wheat, I've not checked the list. I don't know whether wheat is there.
There's
and then the farmer says,
yes,
complaining. What is the total thing that you even produce in the economy in the first instance? What is your complaint all about? So it is important to manage that process properly so that we can use the removal of tariff to reduce prices in the market temporarily. But sustainability is still an issue which we must work seriously on, because you cannot remove tariff forever. It will only be for a few months to deflate the prices.
150 days. I think last I checked it was about 150 days.
It's about 150 days, and most important, others have even asked that it should go beyond 150 days. But let me also ask you.
Once it's been extended, it becomes a problem.
Yes, yes, absolutely, absolutely. But apart from the extension, which might end up being a problem, like you've also highlighted, let me ask a two-way question. First of all, what's the impact of the removal of these tariffs on local production? That's one. Secondly, the former CBN governor had given his kudos to the current CBN governor. I'm talking about Sanusi Lamido. Sanusi has given kudos to Olayemi Cardoso's policies. Can we say that it's high time we cut the APC some slack and say, yes, the policies are starting to kick in? Or is this rather just one of those lucky moments that Nigerians shouldn't really hold on to, because we do not know if inflation would come back again?
Well, we can celebrate lucky moments, actually, because I think the primary driver is still the reality that we have come into a harvest season. So that is not exactly about what government has done or what government has not done. What government can now do is to complement our good luck by ensuring that it becomes sustainable, that it's not taken away from us by whatever forces are in that space. Very, very important. The key driver actually has nothing to do with the CBN policy. CBN is using the tool that is available to it to drive down inflation. That is what CBN is doing as at now. But you see, the gains that we have just recorded now, when you look at the breakdown, you will see it right there. The implications have also been there right from time. When you look at our inflation, you see that the food inflation is the biggest factor that is driving it. When we have come into a harvest season and there is more food and that food inflation has reduced, inflation will automatically also reduce. Now, that is not monetary issue. Monetary policy is doing its own bit, holding the fort in its own area, but its influence is not omnibus. It's not enough to drive down inflation sustainably within a short period. It will take so long a time before we can begin to see the effect. But at the same time, I appreciate the fact that the CBN cannot afford to drop the ball right now. That is why it has kept the rate high. It is when we reach an inflection point that we are approaching now. It is after the curve has changed direction to the other side. That is when the CBN can begin to look at, okay, let me cut rates. Not before. So the policy is in order. I think Mr. Cardoso is sanitizing that place. It's a very challenging period for the economy and for the decision makers. I don't envy them at all. But if we keep things focused, and if we look particularly at this inflation figure with the mindset that it affects a lot of things and we're able to sustainably drive it down, we may begin to see certain changes in the economy. August, for example, is getting dangerous, that the inflation gains might be reversed if we're not careful. If the fuel problem lingers, and people are queuing up and buying fuel at rates that are outrageous, way beyond what we had in July, then it might be energy that will wipe out the gains that we are celebrating right now.
And I don't even know how to react to that, because we're already starting to see that different parts of the country, the fuels have started to resurface in Abuja, in Lagos, in some parts of the country. And it seems that Nigerians are, in a way, sort of embracing fuel scarcity as the norm. So if you say that that will sort of erase the gains, I hope that the government takes that into cognizance and can ensure that they do what they need to do to ensure that these gains are not lost. But I don't know if you have any particular information as to why certain food products have become relatively cheaper, or would I say extremely much cheaper than what we're used to. We know that, yes, it's dropped in the past month, but in particular, there have been reports of how tomatoes have become extremely cheaper and yams and such, that people have been a bit afraid to purchase them because they're wondering, why am I getting this cheaper than usual? Do we have any particular information maybe why this might be occurring, or is it as a result, again, of the policies that we've been discussing about?
I think it's harvest. These products, they have their season. It's a good thing. It's also a very bad thing. Good thing in the sense that because the harvest has come for those products, they are available. The bad part is that this seasonality has been our lot for decades, and we've not been able to move past the seasonality of some of those products. So if they go out of season again, scarcity begins. The tomatoes that were 500 may once again become 1 for 500 when the season is out. So the sustainability issue we must handle. Otherwise, we will enjoy the season, then we will go back to how things used to be over time.
The Central Bank of Nigeria has also increased rates, I think about 4 times this year, in a bid to stabilize inflation. The next rate setting meeting should be sometime in September. Are we looking to see another increase?
It will depend on how the inflation curve is behaving. So if things go in the direction that we have seen in July inflation, then most likely you're not going to see a rate hike.
Okay.
But if it reverses, and we started to have an upswing all over again, CBN might have no option that to either hike rate or at best keep it at the same level. So the driver, the incentive for CBN to want to start to cut rate is that the inflation curve has reached a point of inflection and has changed direction. That is the incentive for CBN to take that.
Lovely. So in your final words, Mr. Olojede, we can say that Nigerians should start celebrating now. Like you said, celebrate the small wins regardless, and take cognizance that things may or definitely will get better, right?
Yeah, let's celebrate our good luck, and let's ask the government to please help us to sustain the gain.
By ensuring that we don't get into fuel scarcity and fuel queues and all the drama that we're starting to see in different parts of the country. Bola Olojede, thank you so much for joining us. It's always a delight to speak with you.
Thanks for having me.
All right.
I think there's a part of me that in a way sank when he talked about the fact that yes, we are making gains, but if we start to see a repeat of the fuel scarcity crisis that we've been experiencing, then we might lose the gains. And it's the reality of things, because you don't expect that the prices in food and beverages, they're the leading drivers of food inflation. And you don't expect that people will go to queue for hours and not get access to these products, buy from the black market, and that the prices will not be reflected in what they're selling. Of course it will. So I'm hoping that whatever it is that is causing this fuel scarcity and the challenges we're experiencing in that area, that the government can nip it in the bud. I don't know if I have a lot of faith. I just have hope as opposed to faith.
Well, that's why the government tells you it's called renewed hope. It could be renewed if I look at the trajectory of fuel scarcity,
My hope has not yet been renewed.
Anyway, I all I know is I got fuel yesterday. I had to stay in the queue for a long time. Well, not so long, maybe like 35 minutes. I was
35 minutes is great time that you could use for something else to rest.
Trust me,
time for your productivity, and then you leave work and you go and queue. It's really not nice. Please, we're hoping that the government can do something about this to make life a little bearable for Nigerians.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Anyway, we'll go for a quick break. When we come back, our conversation will focus on the back and forth concerning what lawmakers earn every month. We've heard 13 million in the past. We heard 1 million
and
naira.
then 1 million.
Yeah, when they take away the taxes and all that, we're left with 900 and something.
I bet when we have the Gen Alphas in the coming generation, you ask them, what do you want to be when you grow up? I want to be a lawmaker.
That's true. That's true.
We'll be right back after this break.
The Senate has denied claims that its lawmakers receive 21 million naira in salaries and allowances monthly. The Senate spokesperson Yemi Adaramodu counters Senator Sumaila Kawu's claim of a monthly package of above 21 million naira. Adaramodu stated that running costs are separate from salaries and personal allowances, which are set by the Revenue Mobilization Allocation and Fiscal Commission. He emphasized that running costs are used for office operations and are not unique to the legislature. He defended the Senate, stated that senators are accomplished professionals driven by patriotic zeal, not financial gain, and that the National Assembly receives only 1% of the federal budget. Well, joining us is non-commercial whistleblower and rights activist Madi Shehu. Thank you so much for being here, Mr. Shehu.
Thank you. Good morning.
All right. Good morning. What's your take on the back and forth of what our lawmakers earn? Do you think it's a conversation that a country that's been neck deep in independence should be having now? Especially when you look at saner climes where the salaries of lawmakers are made public. But why is ours different? What are your take? Or what's your take, rather?
Okay, let me just compare the Senator Kawu's Miller statement and the in-house denial. It's just like you come back home and your wife tells you that there is a snake in the kitchen. Just when you're outside the house, a mad woman tells you that there is a snake in the kitchen. That mad woman is just a stray woman. Which one are you likely to believe?
We seem to be struggling with the internet connection with our guest, and we're hoping that we can have him sorted. We have with us Madi Shehu, who's joining us to speak about the salaries and emoluments of public office holders. If you recall, there have been conflicting reports about the salaries and what they earn. Whilst there have been claims of 1 million, there have been claims of 21 million denials. And the RMAFC's website details what the salaries of lawmakers are, stating that it's 1 million naira and breaking it down into several packages. There have also been, the RMAFC did clearly state that it's important to note that they are not in charge of enforcing that the application of what the salaries are to be. Anyway, we'll still talk more about that. We're still joined by Madi Shehu, who is speaking to us about the discrepancy in salary and emoluments of lawmakers. Please go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I think you were giving us an illustration. Please go ahead.
Yeah, the illustration was that if a wild woman passing by your house tell you that there is a snake in your house, and your wife inside the home tells you there is a snake in the house, you will definitely believe the wife because she's an insider. Senator Kawu's Miller is an insider. He's an active participant, a principal officer for that matter of the National Assembly. Therefore, I would rather believe Kawu's Miller in wholesale and retail than believe revenue mobilization or any other counter from anybody. Because he has no reason to tell you lies. He has no benefit of telling you lies. I stand by Kawu's Miller. I believe his figure, and this figure is not the first time it is being made public. Senator Shehu Sani in the past made a revelation of 17 million naira then. The figure has jumped to 21 million naira now. And we challenge any member of the National Assembly who have the courage, a senator, to show us his last month alert, where he received the so-called allowance and the wholesale salary. I have a personal friend, a serving senator. Yesterday, he opened his telephone, showed me the last alert he received, and it corroborates Akau's Mela's position. 21 million naira. Actually, 21,448,000 naira was what my friend received last month. So why is the discrepancy? Why are they shouting all over? In fact, this is just a tip of the iceberg. 21 billion naira is just a tip of the iceberg. Let me give you the following disclosures. Now, everybody remembers that every senator was given 500 million naira constituency project. It was credited to their accounts directly. This is a breach of the Procurement Act. If you are giving somebody 500 million naira to undertake any project in his own constituency, number one, that project must be clearly defined, not at his own discretion. Number two, that allocation must be on the line item of a budget. It's not there. Any project that you are going to undertake with that money must be published through a tender. There will be people who will respond. There will be a technical and financial opening of the bid, and there will be award. None of them is there. There is no project consultant. Yet they have been given 500 million naira on a platter of gold. This is not part of the 21 million naira being contested. Number two, if you pick the 2024 budget, they allocated 20 billion 388,000 million for what? For legislative aids. The salary of a legislative aid, which is never paid, is 250,000 naira per person. If you allocate 20 billion 388 million for legislative salary for 2024, it means if you divide that number, you are going to have 81,552 legislative aid. If you divide that figure by 500, assuming there are 500 members and they are not up to 500, but round the figure, if you have 500 members sharing 81,552 legislative aid, paying them 250,000 naira per month, it means each senator will have, each member of the National Assembly will have 163 legislative aid. This is clearly a fraud. It's clearly a fraud. If that is not enough for you, look at what they did. They allocated 3 billion naira for car park. They allocated 4 billion naira for gymnasium. In a state, in a country where hunger has taken over the entire horizon, they are allocating 15 billion naira to build National Assembly Hospital, but they allocated 2 billion naira for the National Hospital Abuja. They allocated 15 billion naira for National Assembly Hospital. They allocated 2 billion naira to the National Hospital Abuja. No, they allocated 15 billion naira for National Library, for National Assembly Library. They allocated 983 million naira for the National Library, the whole country. I mean, these are people who are making it possible for us to make insinuations, very correct insinuations. They are not putting any hope in anybody.
Do you have, I mean, you've given very... Are you with us, sir, Mr. Shehu?
Yes, I am. Yes, okay. I am with you.
I was saying that you've given us these are very strong statements that have been made. Even talking about your friend who showed you his alert, I was wondering if you'd be willing to share who he is. But in addition to that, let's talk about the role that the RMAFC plays in all of this. We've talked about the lawmakers, but the RMAFC has come out, to say they've disputed the statements made by Shehu Sani, who had stated that 13.5 million in his time, in addition to running cost, in addition to a salary of about 750,000 naira. But RMAFC has come out to dispute what Shehu Sani has said, dispute, the recent allegations that have been made. But in their on their website, whilst they claim that it's 1 million naira, and they broke it down to the different earnings by these lawmakers, they said categorically that they cannot enforce the application of what the allocation by RMEFC is, and that's a lacuna in the Constitution, a lacuna that can only be fixed by the National Assembly. So let's talk about the role that the RMEFC has to play in all of this. Or are they completely not to be blamed in any way?
See, you believe revenue mobilization at your own risk. If they are the people responsible for harnessing, for gathering, for putting together all revenues accruing to the federal government and share it according to an agreed formula. What is the formula they used? Before their own very eyes last week, EFCC dipped their hand into their own account, removed 50 billion naira, and gave it as donation for the student loan. Now, where is revenue mobilization? Money that is recovered from looters, from thieves, from miscreants, are money belonging to the entire nation. Whatever is recovered by EFCC is supposed to be into a central pool that will be divided and shared among the states. Like, for instance, if there is a recovery from the Zamfara state, money meant for the Zamfara state is stolen by maybe a civil servant or public in the Zamfara state, and another recovery from Nasarawa, another recovery from Katsina, another recovery from Oyo, Oshun, Ongu, put together at EFCC pool. Where is the moral justification for revenue mobilization to look away when this money is being removed and given out as donation? So if there can be spectators, they can be onlookers, they can just fold their arms. That is to tell you that they have abandoned their responsibility. They don't even understand their mandate in the Constitution. Their mandate is they have to ensure that a single kobo coming in is shared according to an agreed formula. And there is an agreed formula, but they are looking out because revenue mobilization allocation appeals commission is now a political wing of APC or a political wing of any party in power. So I don't believe them. You can show me a billion websites. Websites are built by individuals and they can be manipulated by individuals. I don't believe what is on the website. I believe not hearsay, but people confessing with facts. I'm not going to tell you this, my friend. We agreed I'm not going to disclose his name, but he showed me that figure. And I saw it yesterday. And I believe him in wholesale and in retail.
All right. So it's Senator Kawu versus his counterparts now, and it seems like one person is talking too much, is blowing the whistle louder, and therefore he needs to actually keep quiet. That's what it's looking like. But then again, there's a cause for worry here, and the cause for worry affects over 200+ million Nigerians. What can be done? Is it high time for the House of Assembly, in short, for the senators, for everyone to come out clean and say, this is how much we earn? And do you think that RMAFC should actually be scrutinized? Because it seems like we're hearing a different report from one side, a different report from another side. How can we nip this in the bud? Because Nigerians are starting to really think that they're being taken for a ride.
If you're expecting the senators to come out clean, it means you are blowing your own trumpet too much. Don't expect any of them to come out clean. Why do I say so? Look at the circumstances under which they emerge as senators. By the last count, in June this year, 64% of members of the National Assembly are either facing trial in court or are under criminal investigation, or are under investigation. Currently, 63% of them have existing either a court case or a criminal proceeding, or they are under EFCC investigation. The current members, how can somebody with a questionable circumstance come out clean? He is already dirty. Number two, how do you expect a senator who sat down in the National Assembly and approved that a borehole in Akpabio's constituency be sunk at the cost of 184 million naira per borehole? It's in the budget. How do you expect a senator to come out clean? The same senator who approved 193 billion naira for one single street light in Akpabio's constituency. I can continue giving you endless examples. How do you expect a senator to come up clean when he allocated 100 billion naira for administration in SGF office, only for him to allocate 110 billion naira for agriculture nationwide? People who emerge through questionable circumstances will never have the wisdom and the courage and the guts and the audacity to come out clean. Don't forget, I can give you a clear example. Senator Ahmed Lawal, Senator Akpabio, as they are being addressed, did not emerge through a political process. They didn't buy INEC form for Senate. They were not there during the primary for Senate. They were not nominated as candidates. Their names were not on the ballot papers, and yet they emerged as senators, Federal Republic of Nigeria. How can such people come out clean? They can never come out clean because ab initio, it is dirty, it is messy, it is stinky. The process, the procedure, the brought into the National Assembly. And I can challenge, let there be any senator worth his own salt, either a Christian or a Muslim or anybody, swear by the Quran, swear by the Bible, or swear if you go to shrine by the shrine that his election was not marred by fraud, by overvoting, by snatching, by running away. None of them could do that.
Right.
If somebody came into the National Assembly under questionable circumstances, don't expect him to be clean, so they will never come clean. As to revenue mobilization, please, in the name of God, stop talking about them. They are already there for the government. They are part of the political APC. They will never discharge their constitutional responsibility, which they don't even understand. Believe them at your own peril.
Do you have concerns? Do you worry about the future of Senator Kawu, especially because if you recall, Senator Abdul Ningi, who made claims about the discrepancies in the 2024 budget, talking about the fact that 3.7 trillion, I believe, was not traceable to any project. We recall what happened to him and how he was suspended for about 75 days. Even though many claims that it was more of a witch hunt of some sort. Now, it was in Senator Kawu who is speaking and doing the same thing against his colleagues, because they all seem to be on the same page against him. Do you fear that this might be his fate?
I don't have any fear. In fact, if they don't suspend him, it is news to me. Suspending him will not be a news. I expect that in the coming days, Kawu's Mela may be suspended. Maybe 90% possibility of him being suspended. But the cat is already out of the bag. And I wish they will continue suspending senators who make this public statement so that the public understand who we are dealing with. We are dealing with people who are called lawmakers. We are dealing with people who are supposed to understand freedom of expression. We are dealing with people who are supposed to understand the tempo and the pulse of the society. But lo and behold, they have converted themselves into a clique and a cartel and a cabal, insisting that seeing you see not, hearing you hear not, neither do you understand, you must continue to pray. Any society that is afflicted by people like this, who are supposed to be upholding the cause of Nigeria, a society afflicted by a senate like our own senate, is a society doomed. It's a society in a sorry state, in a society with no hope, no future. It's a society that will remain in melancholy and sadness. It's a society that can only be saved by the act of Noah.
And I think the final way to wrap up this conversation is, whilst we're seeing multiple reports and multiple claims, how can Nigerians hold their lawmakers accountable to ensure that, one, the truth comes out regarding exactly what is being earned, and two, if we find that truly they're earning much more than they should, especially in an economy that is struggling like Nigeria, that we can ensure that, I mean, there's some who would argue that they should be leveled, their earnings should be leveled to that of the civil servants, even though I don't know if that is going to happen here in Nigeria. But the question is, how can Nigerian citizens hold our lawmakers accountable?
They should have a scale, a parameter, a yardstick to believe or to ascertain whom they give representation. You don't hand over representation to people with questionable educational background, questionable records in service, on criminal trials, under investigation. You hand over. Akpabio was being investigated for 438 billion naira allegations of fraud while he was the governor and chairman of the NDDC. In the midst of that scandal, he became a Senate president. People must wake up. And if such are the senators of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, God save the electorates. And if such are the docile electorates, God save democracy, God save Nigeria, and God save the world.
Wait,
Right.
I mean, I know that I did say it was the last question, but I'm so sorry. Permit me to sneak in this one as the last one for real. You just talked about Godwin Akpabio,
Okay.
Senator Godwin Akpabio. Do you have any faith in his leadership?
Absolutely no. On a scale of 1 to 10, I'm at 0 level. I don't believe him tracing his history as a governor, tracing his history as chairman of NDDC, and looking at the way and manner he emerged, first as a senator, secondly as a president of the Senate. I have no iota of confidence in him. I have no iota of trust in him. In fact, I see him as a destroyer. Under his very watch, questionable issues are being conducted, questionable projects are being imposed and put down our throats. Money is being spent recklessly. They are approving virtually everything for the president, as if to say that we have only one Senate now under one party. For me, they start on his mandate. There is no difference between a senator from Labour Party, from PDP, from APC, or from any other party for that matter. In changing Nigerians, they are one. In suppressing Nigerians, they are one. In cajoling Nigerians, they are one. And in deceiving Nigerians, they are one and the same.
All right.
A lot has been said, but I want to say thank you so much, non-commercial whistleblower and rights activist Madisho, for joining us this morning. We look forward to have you again, and hopefully this would not be the end of this conversation. Nigerians deserve, they deserve to know. I always say this, at the end of every year, a report is being shared where top bank executives are indeed put out in the public on how much they earn. We know how much the owners of the MDs, the executives, the CEOs of blue chip companies, we know. I mean, Elon Musk, who's actually running X, we know how much he earns in terms of his capital and so on and so forth. So why is it so difficult that we do not know how much a senator earns in Nigeria? It's quite funny.
When next we meet, I will give you the name of companies, of senators that are conducting businesses in all government MDAs with the amounts involved.
That would be next week, and we'll have a date with you, and we'll do that here on Breakfast Central. Thank you so much for talking to us.
Thank you. Thank you.
Quite explosive conversation there, no doubt. I'm sure you were biting your teeth like we were here as well, like we've always done, by the way. Anyway, let's bring you a recap of the top stories we've had so far this hour here on Breakfast Central. We've talked about Nigeria's inflation rate as it dropped the first time. Yes, for the first time in 19 months.
Senate denies Kawo's claim of 21 million naira pay for lawmakers.
And apologizer face our wrath. Labour wants federal government overraid in that report. But now let's bring to you what is coming up next in the second hour. Second hour, VDM calls out pastor after miracle products go on sale. We do have his rep who joins us here.
And we'll be looking at the newspaper front pages with you right next, opening the phone lines as well.
And don't forget, we do have the chance to share with you what our top stories for the week has been. I do have mine, Olive does, and we'll be right back.
Welcome back to Breakfast Central. We're looking through the papers this morning, and we're going to be opening the phone lines so you get to be a part of the conversation and you can join us as well. We're joined by the head strategy and public affairs for Nairametrics, Wade Ahimie. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Oli.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Anyone here today?
That's good. Well, I'm here. I'm here today.
Happy. What's that bill that was withdrawn?
Which one?
Happy counter subversion bill withdrawal week.
No,
You're not around for us to discuss that.
I don't think we.
So the only thing I always say about this kind of things is that people think that when they're in governance and they pass a bill or they write a decree, it can't come back to haunt them. They should ask General Olusegun Obasanjo. That's it.
Okay, let's get into the papers this morning. Let's see how many papers we can take. Our first paper this morning is the Punch newspaper. On the front page of the Punch newspaper, Ogun FTZ deal. Chinese firm targets Nigeria assets in 8 countries. Zhongran eyes assets in UK, US, others. Presidency vows to protect jets. CJN NJC sends Kekereakun's name to Tinubu today. Educationist files 11 billion naira suit against Sanwo-Olu over school demolition. Oh, wow. Secretariat raid. NLC demands detained members release. Harvest season reduces food inflation to 39.5%. That's a conversation we had earlier, which is some lights at the end of the tunnel. I mean, we haven't gotten to the end of the tunnel, but it's some beautiful news to come up to read. Federal government eyes pension funds in $500 million bond issuance. mpox. Federal government tightens border surveillance as cases hit 39. And final story, court orders forfeiture of Emefiele's $2.4 million Lagos and Delta assets. It's a wow. Let's move away from the Punch newspaper.
All right, let's go to another paper very quickly before we bring in our analysts to touch on some of the big stories there. And we're looking at the Daily Times. French court seizes Nigerian presidential jets over $74.5 million dispute. Federal government taking legal diplomatic steps to recover seized presidential aircraft, AGF says. Ogun government moves to vacate seizure order. Aircraft seizure and international embarrassment, according to Peter Obi. And another story here says, Tinubu urges African leaders to address exodus of skills and talents. Says research and development must be encouraged with provision of appropriate rewards. Anyway, another story here on the front page of Daily Times. NJC recommends Justice Kudirat Kekereekun as CJN. She's to replace, of course, the outgoing CJN as well. Don't mystify, she's presented. Not yet. She's just been recommended. So let's take note of that. Don't mystify, Tinubu clerk tells Igbo appointees. And final story before we go straight to the analyst who's here with us. EFCC seeks specialized court to try cases of oil theft and vandalism. That's what the EFCC wants. They want a special court. This court is special, different, completely different from the other court. All right.
EFCC, okay.
Yes.
I mean, I think let's get into the conversation.
Yes, let's go into the conversation.
Maybe we should actually start with that last story that Drew has just highlighted. EFCC seeks specialized court to try cases of oil theft and vandalism. Are we really serious about fighting oil theft in this country?
Are we really serious about fighting anything in this country? Why do we need specialized courts? Why just not improve the judicial system? Congratulations, 300% increment.
Yeah.
Are you with me? But you still have to move paper across courts. In today's world,
it's why we can be hearing excuses of courts being broken into and protesters or vandals taking official.
But even if it's electronic, it can be broken into. But the fact remains that in today's world, where everybody is gone digital, we're still pushing paper and we're looking for special courts. How many courts do we want to have? How many judges do we want to have? How quickly do we push these things through the judiciary system? So if you get a special court for them, there's special court for this, there's special court for that, there's special court for that, there's special court for everything. It's just ridiculous when people refuse to create a system and just want something that would, oh, it's my own. We're the ones that have it. No, it's called a system because everybody must plug into it and let it work from a central perspective. Wow, it's amazing.
It is amazing. It is truly amazing. Let's take a look at another story, one I'd like you to react to. Let's talk about the almighty seizure. What I choose to call, when I saw the story and I was reading through the story, I called it the Chinese seizure, because it's a seizure the federal government never expected would happen. It's got to do with the French court granting a Chinese firm the powers to seize any assets belonging to Nigeria. And coincidentally, 3 of the aircrafts we put up for sale have not been sold, but inadvertently have been seized by the Chinese company. What's your take on that story as well?
Okay, so, you know, when I was reading the press statement that came out from either the presidency or I was laughing. And the reason why I was laughing is that the first thing is, and which is typical, you shift the blame first. Oh, it's Ogun State government. There is no loan, no external loan in Nigeria can be taken without the federal government guarantee. One of the things that hampered the Lagos monorail initially was because the Obasanjo administration was not willing to back Tinubu's plan. But subsequently, that guarantee was given, and then it kicked off under Fashola. So when you come and say, oh, it's between the Ogun State and the Chinese firm, no. It's between the government of Nigeria, because if you give someone a guarantee, and at the end of the day, the person fails to honor his own part of the obligations, I don't know what the contracts are. Of course, then you now go on and say, oh, yes, there is a contract. Of course, there is a contract. Oh, but the only thing they've done is that they built the perimeter fence. So who is managing that aspect for Ogun State? Are you telling me that this contract that started in 2012 and was finally signed in 2015 and 9 years down the line, nobody is accountable for managing that project and that contract? Why do we continue to do things like this and make well, my brother says something, Nigerians are simpletons. You just believe everything they throw to you and then we make headlines. And the newspapers carry it without even giving you proper details of how these things are meant to flow. How does it revert to the federal government after 9 years? Because you've given a guarantee and nothing is being done. And the state governor is saying, oh, no, they haven't done any work. What exactly are they supposed to do? And that's the question that needs to be asked. Hopefully, they're not going to seize other assets, because if one company can get that, what it means is that all other companies are going to start going to courts in Europe.
Absolutely. That's what it means.
We saw the PD&D where it went. Thank God that the Ministry of Justice finally decided to do their work and review those things. That's all.
Okay, I think it's also important for us to mention to our audience that if you'd like to be a part of the conversation, as usual, we want you to be a part of it. The number to call is on your TV screen. Please call in before we wrap up the newspaper review. And also remember to turn down the volume of your TV set before you connect to the studio. Thank you very much. Okay, now let's still look at the front pages of the paper. Here we're seeing some good news. I think we should bring a little bit of good news. Harvest season reduces food inflation to 39.5%. Earlier in the show, we talked about how for the first time we're seeing a reduction in inflation in the month of July, and I'm sure that you're excited about this. Oh, yes. Although we did have an analyst earlier who talked about the fact that as much as we're seeing gains, we will lose these gains if we'll continue to talk about conversations of fuel scarcity and the queues.
Which is all over the place.
Exactly. So how do we intend to sustain this? But I mean, how do you think that this is a win that can be sustained, or it's just a temporary win to look at and be grateful for?
It's a temporary win, in my own opinion. Can it be sustained? No. Harvest seasons between end of June, early September, until the next set of rains start to come in, where you now start the new planting season. The question is, and it's a huge question, all the other things that are meant to be done, are they being done? Are they in place? First and foremost is insecurity. Because we could even lose these gains by the end of August if the level of insecurity increases, meaning that farmers can harvest. That's one. Now the roads are dry, so movement is a bit better for logistics. Of course, by September, when all those harvests are done, we can start to lose those gains, because when the rain starts to come in again, if you don't have good network transportation, logistics network to move those things, to reduce and continually feel that effect until you get into the next harvest season, which is towards January, February. So it's a cyclical thing. We know this, we've seen it, but what are we doing to ensure that it's a long-term thing? In my own opinion, just give them palliatives.
Which is the most
Palliatives
used.
to who?
Just
To Nigerians.
To Nigerians.
But isn't that the solution to everything?
That's the most.
There's fuel queues, give them rice. Inflation is high, give them rice.
You know, there's
Rather
no medical.
Give them rice.
Yeah.
We're going to bring back doctors from
the UK.
Okay, but we are hungry. Okay,
give them
us rice.
It's the palliative way, so
All
to
right.
say.
Let's
Not
also talk about the
infrastructure.
Nigerian Labour Congress. We talked about the update of their headquarters being raided, the 10th floor, I believe, and they talked about how a number of the properties were carted. On the front page of the Punch, it still reports Secretariat raid, NLC demands detained members release. They've also asked for an apology from the federal government.
But it's DSS, no? But they said they didn't.
Yeah, so the point here as well has to do with the police. The police did come out to say the AIG spoke and said the raid was good enough, not done in the EFCC office or on the EFCC office. It was just a next door neighbor.
On the Labour Congress office,
Yes,
that was the next door
sorry,
neighbor.
Labour Congress office. It was just the next door neighbor that they carried out a raid. That in the process of carrying out...
I clearly remember, because only remember when we were talking about
Yes.
is did the NLC rent out an office to an external person within the NLC building?
Question.
It's possible.
Good question.
Are
They
you
said they didn't touch their office.
So
That while they were carrying out that
we
raid,
asked, did they answer these questions?
the NLC said...
So let's read the spokesperson, by the statement by the NLC spokesperson, Benson Ukpa. He says, the operatives burst into the building at about 8:30 p.m. and arrested the security guards, forcing them to hand over keys to the offices on the second floor.
Yeah.
Ukpa said the security operatives, some from the Nigerian Police Force, some wearing black T-shirts, presumably from the Department of State Services, and others on outright
apparently
mufti,
was the
swooped on the
police.
10th floor of the NLC and arrested the security operative on duty, and then commandeered him to the second floor, where he was asked to produce the keys to the offices. When he told them that he had no such keys on him, they broke into the floor, ransacked the bookshop on the second floor, carting away hundreds of books and other publications.
And the man was carried along with them.
Yeah.
So that's what the NLC is saying now. So okay, so if you had gone out to carry a raid to their neighbor and you arrest someone who is not part and parcel, and he says, okay, he's the security person in charge of security, are you with me? You should. This is almost 3 weeks.
The IGP has said that the IGP, according to the Punch report, the IGP confirmed that the police did carry out the report, but they're saying that the raid was carried out by the police.
They said
saying
there's a foreigner. There's a foreigner
involved
there.
in Sudanese crisis that was traced to the Labour building.
And there's no problem. So are you saying that the person who has been arrested that Labour says you should release is
the terrorist,
or is the alleged terrorist?
No, not at all.
But you see, there is no clarity.
Not at all.
If NLC is still demanding that some of their staff were taken, are you with me? Then come out and tell us who were the people that were taken. It doesn't bar the fact that there is an investigation going on, and if you need to hold them longer, there is the rules for holding people.
These are the people that are, according to the NLC, that are still being held by the police. The government, they said they are asking the government to release those in custody, including NUEE executive comrade Opalua Eleojo, who was arrested at a social spot in Abuja. I do not know if this is in relation to that particular raid.
Not
So why
at
are
all.
they?
So let me. I'm not a spokesperson.
I'm not expecting. But my point is this: are you with me? You arrest people. Are you with me? First, I'm not sure there was a warrant that was issued by a court, which is what the means of arrest should be. There is a rule for how long you can hold people.
Exactly.
Which is
usually not,
Which is usually about 48 to 72
It's
hours.
not adhered to.
Yeah. And if there is a need to continually hold the person, then you must get a court to continually tell you for how long, based on the information you provide to the judge.
Sure.
Have these things been done? And these are the questions that, for me, these are the questions that need to be answered.
So they're very key questions, but like I said, just as none of us here is a spokesperson for
and
the
none of
Labour
are
Congress.
you a lawyer? Neither. So my
Neither of
legal
us.
friends who are listening, please
Yes,
correct us if we are wrong.
but based on what we have on ground in terms of information being passed, I did mention we carried it here on News Central. The police AIG said there was a foreigner whose office was next to the office of the Nigerian Labour Congress.
Within
And
the
that
same
foreigner,
premises?
yes,
Okay.
and that foreigner, they said next to their office, not their office, next to their office. They're quite different things, different places. And that foreigner has been involved in a lot of things. He's sponsoring, he has been sponsoring terrorism, he's been sponsoring a lot of things.
Right.
So they've been monitoring him, and it was time for them to get
fine.
it, and that's how they got
And that's how
it. But
they
the
got
question the Labour Congress is asking, how is it that you went to the foreigner's office,
And then you
but
came
yet
into our
my office
office?
was bungled, broken into, and my items
All
carted
right.
away?
Well, let's pause on that thought a bit and take this call from your caller. Good morning. Thank you for calling. Please go ahead with your comment.
Good morning, News Central.
Yes, please. We were struggling to hear you. Can you please speak up?
Okay, good morning. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I don't understand. Nigerian case is now turning to a mirage that things just happen and everybody keeps going to the same circle of these different information from different quarters. Now, the question is, if you actually have a terrorist, why are the names being withheld by the Nigerian police? Are they invisible? You claim you come around to pick a terrorist, and you cannot disclose the name. We see what they do. The last time they linked some Nigerians in Dubai with funding Boko Haram, they came out with their names. It is too much for our government to do. Same thing here. Why are we always doing abacadabra with everything? I don't understand. We'll keep saying this over and over, and nothing will change. That's just my take.
All right. Thank you very much for calling and sharing your thoughts there. I mean, just to to clarify there earlier, whilst we're seeing multiplicity of information, it's important that if the government does have anybody from the NLC in custody, they bring them before the courts according to the provisions. You have to bring them between 24 to 48 hours. You shouldn't hold them beyond that.
I totally agree with you.
Right.
There's a legal system. Please just obey. Follow it.
All right. I think the final story will be court ordering for future of Emefiele's $2.4 million Lagos and Delta assets.
That's fine. If they provided there's an investigation going on. Are you with me? Not even an investigation. They've even taken him to court for corruption. And if they provided information in respect of that and the court deems it fit that it needs to be forfeited, and it was monies that were, it was properties or earnings that came not from his regular sources of income. Of course, yes, the court has the right to what's it called, to give the order for them for forfeiture. So, really, and that's it. That's my opinion. My lawyers might be
Sure.
Right.
That's fine. I think the Emefiele case is also going the same route with what my learned colleague here. I'm not your colleague, by the way.
I'm glad you highlighted that.
I said, there should be a number of hours that you could actually hold on to someone, especially in this.
But
this
but
crime.
Emefiele has been charged to court.
Yeah. I'm saying before he was even charged to court.
That's the difference. Yeah.
I'm saying that there's a similar scenario that we've seen that has started to look like it's the norm.
That's a regular scenario.
It's a regular scenario. It's starting to look like the norm. In short, it is the norm, and that's what we see these days. Anyway, hopefully we'll get back and see what the situation would be, likely from Nigeria Labour Congress headquarters, and most importantly, the other stories we've taken a look at. Fortunately, we've come to the end of this conversation concerning the front pages of the newspapers. We'll go for a quick break. When we come back, there is a very, very interesting conversation we had kept or safe to have on a Friday like this. We have a legal practitioner who's joining us to have this discussion with us. So stay with us. Touch not my anointed is often what you hear from Nigerians when they wax very spiritual, especially when it's got to do with the fact that a hashtag man of God is being attacked by one who is not considered to be a man of God, or better still, a pastor. Now, this has led to a story recently on the social media space where a social commentator and activist decided to take it into his strides to call out a very popular pastor who is selling products otherwise known as miracle products. They include soap, water, and the likes, including one particular one which has got to do with miracle lights. Now, it is often said that when these miracle products are sold, especially by the congregation or congregants, that they experience something different. However, for the man you just saw there on the screen, also known as Very Dark Man, his real names are Martins or Sir Vincent. His claim simply is, how do you sell products without a NAFDAC approval or NAFDAC number? Well, so far so good. This has led to a back and forth conversation, and eventually the man of God, otherwise known as Jeremiah Fufeyin, decided to sue him for ₦1 billion. Now, of course, like we rightly said at the start of this conversation, Nigerians said, very good, touch not my anointed. But could it be a case of ignorance? Or could it be a case of one who is fighting for what Nigerians should eventually see as the truth? Well, in between the mix, a very respected lawyer jumped in on the case and said he is willing to defend, no, not the pastor, but is willing to defend Very Dark Man. Today, he joins us on the show this morning on Breakfast Central as we take a look at this particular case. Welcome and thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Liberus Oshoma.
Thank you. Good morning.
All right. This is a conversation that has, heated the social media space and eventually has gotten everyone talking. First off, when I saw you put out that video, I couldn't help but laugh, I'll be honest. And I said, okay, this is going somewhere else. What do you make of this touch not my anointed, especially looking at the case that's at hand where a product or products are being sold and Nigerians are buying at will without it being registered? And what do you have to say about NAFDAC keeping quiet?
Yeah, first and foremost, we need to understand that the constitution of the land is the ground norm. The constitution is higher than the Quran, is higher than the Bible. We in the South here, we condemn people. When we hear Boko Haram members say the Quran is their ground norm and that any law in the constitution that is conflicting with the Quran, that they will obey the Quran first, we condemn them. But here, we do the same thing. When people believe that the Bible is higher a law than the constitution of the land. In the constitution, there are no exception there are no anointed men. If you commit an offense, you go, before the law takes its course. So this idea of touch not my anointed and do my prophet no harm or live on for God is born out of ignorance. And that's why people will defraud, people will commit crime, all in the name of, being anointed. And knowing fully well that there's so much ignorance in the land, once you cover yourself with that cloak of being anointed, the tendency that the people would defend you, will be there because out of ignorance. So that's why you see all of these things happening. It is not the position of the law. The law does not anoint anybody in as far as Nigeria is concerned. And then I'm shocked and I'm surprised that a respected and responsible DG of NAFDAC, a woman we respect so much, who's a professor of pharmacy, will keep quiet that products like these are being sold, people are buying, and yet without NAFDAC approval, and these are consumables because soap, for example, is something you use. It's categorized under drug administration. That's why water, for example, if you want to bottle water, you want to bag water, you must get NAFDAC approval. NAFDAC must inspect the factory. somebody is bottling water and selling and saying it's a miracle water, and yet, these are waters that people consume, and yet there is no, NAFDAC is quiet and silent because we will be turned to a nation of, religion and religiosity. So that's basically what is playing out here. And so that's why some of us feel that we can't keep quiet. It is time to test the law, test the position of the law. But I also would tell you that this is clear case of fraud, because and what the police, everyday police, they call it OBT, obtaining by false pretense. If I come to you and I tell you this water will cure all kinds of diseases, and then I buy the water and it does not cure, the disease that you claim that it will cure, and then you say it's because I do not have faith or I do not love you, and that is why it didn't work, then it is obtaining by fraud, by false pretense. It's because, like the very dark man said, if I have headache, paracetamol says it will cure my headache, and I take paracetamol, I don't need to have faith. If you have malaria, you go to the hospital, the doctor will prescribe medications for you. And if they don't work, in some cases, people have been known to sue hospitals and doctors for prescribing wrong medication. And NAFDAC had to step into such situations to even test the efficacy of such drug. That's why during Professor Dorakui's time, there were issues of fake drugs, all in the market, and steps were taken to ensure that, the influx of fake drug is regulated. But today, you have all kinds of fake miracle, products selling. And the problem is that if you leave one, if there is no consequences, if somebody is not used as an example, before you know, there'll be so much proliferation of this product that people, the unsuspecting, because you live in a society that is largely uneducated, the unsuspecting and gullible worshippers, because the pastors, the so-called men of God, have undue influence over these people, they can easily manipulate and influence them. So it is not also a case of I did not force them to buy. Impliedly, under the law, you have forced them because you have influence over them. So we call it undue influence. I do not see where somebody needs to buy key to go to heaven. Because what we are toiling with now is a situation, you remember the Guyana tragedy, where somebody, a passive man of God, told his followers to go sell their properties and come, that the coming of the Lord Jesus Christ was near. And they all went there and drank poisons and died because they were all going to heaven. So the Boko Haram religious extremists that we tolerated yesteryears in the north has turned to Boko Haram and banditry, to us in our midst today. And close to 20 years now, we're battling insecurity in the north. Today, also, if this religious extremism that we are keeping quiet for over in the south, if care is not taken, one man can tomorrow raise an army of young people and ask them to go cause mayhem in the name of the Lord. So these are why regulatory agencies should step up, not only NAFDAC now quickly, because this is business. What is FRS and the state inland revenue doing to check, the taxes paid by these people? Because this is no longer about religiosity. Because if you talk about religion, then it talks about, you will now be talking about Part C under Kama. Because you say it's a charitable organization.
Mr. Shoma, I think that at this point, it will be important for us to even do some legal education as to what exactly constitutes defamation. Because there has been a $1 billion lawsuit slammed on him, and I know that they also sought an injunction refraining him from calling out Prophet Jeremiah Fufeyin. But we'll go on a very quick break, and when we come back, we'll be looking into what the law says, especially in this time and age when we're hearing a lot of defamation, cyberbullying, and the like. So we'll be right back. Welcome back to Breakfast Central. We're still looking at the drama going on between Prophet Jeremiah Fufeyin and Martins Otse Vincent, popularly known as Very Dark Man. And today we're joined by Liberos Oshoma, who's a legal practitioner, to talk to us about the legality or otherwise of the case at hand. Now, let's look at what would actually constitute a defamation of character. We did see the videos of Very Dark Man calling him out for the products that had been used, talking about the fact that he had no NAFDAC number, and also, speaking to the function and whether they're actually doing what they were meant to do or what they have been acclaimed to do. So at what point would Prophet Fumfeyin have had a strong claim, or does he have in any way a claim, a defamation claim? At what point would one say that they can have a strong case of defamation?
Yeah, before I go into that, I would draw a analogy from Section 35, is it 35 or 25 now of the Cybercrime Act, and then also use it to explain defamation for you. I will quickly, give you an instance, an example, what happens in other societies. You remember our Ndaboski pastor, who performs all kinds of miracles here, slam people as if he's slam dunking basketball, in Nigeria here. Recently he was in London for his so-called concert. Did you see him slam people on the floor or perform miracle? He ended up just, holding a comedy show or a concert. Because in those society, nobody will allow you to come deceive anybody with fake miracles. Then, that said, Section 35 or 25 of the Cybercrime Act defines, cyberbullying as using the internet to pass wrong information about somebody. And defamation is when you pass wrong information, knowing that information to be true. You speak wrong information about somebody, knowing that information to be false. Libel is when it is published wrong information about person, maliciously. But what are the defense to defamation? Defense to defamation is the fact that this information is not wrong, it is true. So I have justification for it. In the first place, you do not even have a reputation to protect, because what you're doing is passing out, wrong products. These products that I am calling out are wrong products. So there is no reputation here. If you are out there lying and cheating people, and yet you now say you should be defended because nobody should talk about the fact that it's a cheat or it's a lie, it's a defense to defamation. So the first thing is you must first and foremost prove that you have a reputation and that the narrative is false. And then the defense will now come and prove justification, and that the narrative, truth is a defense to defamation. So in this case, and it's a defense also to cyberbullying. So in this case, that is why for you to say cyberbullying, the information you are passing must be wrong. So in this case, let's look at the narrative now. What are the narrative? You say you have miracle soap, you have miracle water, you have miracle perfume, full of bestseller, you have keys and you have stones, and that they heal and they cure. They drive away poverty. And anybody that uses them will, if we are finding difficult in building a house, there are spiritual attacks. Once you use this product, that you will, all of these difficulties will vanish. Olive, you remember the case of Carbolic Smoke Ball Company versus Khalil? Every elementary law student knows that case. So it applies here. Now you have advertised to the entire world. Anybody at all that uses this product and it fails can call you out, because you owe that person a duty of care. And so in this case, I buy the product and I take them. I want to heal people because I'm passionate about, I want to heal people on the street. I say, okay, let me buy this product that they say is working, and I give it to them and nothing happens. Is that not deceit? And then people are buying ignorantly, and I go and I say, NAFDAC, this person claimed to have registered this product. What are the ingredients? Because also by the Freedom of Information Act, by virtue of the Freedom of Information Act, you have a right to seek information from agencies. So NAFDAC, by virtue of this freedom of information, I need information. This product, what are the ingredients? What did you actually carry out to approve this product? What are the steps taken? I also need you, these are the products. Please help us carry out a verification in your lab to test the efficacy of this product. It's not everything that should be left in the realms of spirituality. So, because you're claiming that this thing will heal physical, there are keys also. I don't know if you've seen the video of keys.
Yeah, we saw the edit,
mind you,
the graphics.
These are public funds. If they give you a visa to UK now, they will state it there. No recourse to public fund. Public fund does not mean that you must work in government. Even if you are working or you're collecting, you're selling items to the public that you will collect money from. That is having recourse to public fund. So when you sell products and you're making money from the public, the government owe it a duty to protect public fund. It does not necessarily have to mean money coming from government.
All right, Mr.
So
Shoma,
that is why we're calling on.
Yeah, we unfortunately have to, go right now because we're out of time. But as quickly as possible, there are reports that this case has been, that Prophet Jeremiah has withdrawn his case against Very Dark Man. Do you have any information regarding that? Is it true or not?
I do. Yeah, I saw that all on the internet. I volunteered to defend the Very Dark Man, Obono. Very Dark Man has not reached out to me, accepting my request to defend him.
All right.
Because it is one thing to be a volunteer, it's another thing for the person you are volunteering to say, well, I have accepted you to be part of my legal team.
Well, I'm sure that in the coming days.
And I have a lot of people, a lot of lawyers, a whole lot of barrage of lawyers that have also reached out to me to say they want to be part of that team. But the very next day I saw on the internet.
Yes. I'm sure that I'm certain that in the coming days we'll have a clearer picture as to whether or not the case has been withdrawn and what the next steps will be regarding this case. But we thank you so much for joining us.
Even if the case is withdrawn, I will take out a petition to the Inspector General of Police also to conduct an investigation into all of these public funds. I will write the Minister of Justice, I will write the Minister of Finance.
Mr. Shoma, are you not touching the anointed? Are you not touching the anointed by doing that?
I'm only complying with the provisions of the laws of the land as a lawyer. I don't know about anointing.
All right. Okay.
I'm also anointed. So
thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Shoma. We will, of course, love to have you again so you can give us an update regarding the petition that you're going to be writing, depending on which way this case goes. But it's always a pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
And we have come to the end of the show today. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll be out of the studio. Remember that Breakfast Extra continues tomorrow as I'll be bringing you big stories happening around the country. Tune in to join them. But we'll share with you what's happening later today shortly. We have the news at 9 and we do have Jasiri coming up at 10. Stay tuned to watch that. It's Friday. Remember to not drink and drive. And when you're turning up, turn up with sense. I'm Olive Emodi and I'll see you on Monday.
And I'm Joe Hansen. Well, if you choose to call me the anointed, it's fine. But then again, we'll see you again later on. I'll be on for the news at 9. See you soon.